I seen these tracks. They were huge. It's probably like a 17-inch track. Because I put my heel to heel is what I was trying to do for a step. And I stepped as far as I could, almost doing splits. I was probably there 12, 14 inches from the heel of that other step. My name is Arthur Walk. I live in Nebraska. I'm living in a small town of Campbell. And first thing, it's been a long time ago when I was young. I had a sighting, and it was in 1977. I was 13 years old. We're out with folks fishing out around the Gothenburg area. We were fishing it would be a sand pit. It was kind of hooked up to the Platte River, and we were fishing the sand pit part. Me, my dad, my brother, we were fishing. We'd kind of, well, we're probably about a good 50 foot apart from each other, and sitting there fishing. And it's probably all in the morning when we got there. I'm sitting there just fishing away, and there's something go behind me, and I kind of looked down the bank and seen Dad wasn't there. So I grabbed my pole, my tackle box, got up on a little trail, and hurried over to where the river was, which was probably, I don't know, about 50 foot away or so. So I got over there. I'm looking around. I don't see him. I look down. I see these tracks. Big old barefoot. And there's like three of them. There's one right before the water, kind of going down kind of a sandy type bank. And I look up to the middle of the Platte River, and there's this thing standing, going across, actually going across the river to the other side. He got to the other side, and I looked back down at the track. I was looking at it, and then Mom called for me to come to lunch. So I get over there, and Dad tells me to put my poles in, and Mom hands me a sandwich, some chips, and tells me to get in the car. And we get in the car and we leave. That was my first encounter I ever had. I didn't know what it was. I figured it was some type of a person or human, so I've never seen before. And I figured out what it was when we were watching a show called In Search Of. We're watching that, and they showed the Patterson Gimlin film on there, and I seen that, and I go, okay, that's what I seen that day when we were out there. So yeah, so that's my first encounter.
Hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com.
Sounds like a really interesting story. Let's go over that a little bit more detail. So you're sitting there and you couldn't see your father. Now you said your brother was there as well?
Yeah, he was a little further down the bank, but he must went back to the car too, because I don't remember seeing him in his spot either. So yeah.
Okay, so you were there by yourself, and
yeah.
Did you hear anything or smell anything during that time?
I just heard walking behind me. I figured it was my dad walking behind me, going over to the river to fish.
Right. And then when you saw it crossing the river, describe exactly what you saw.
It was fairly large. It was kind of a really dark brown, almost black. And I just watched it until it got to the other side, and just kind of took a left going down the river. So yeah.
You didn't see the face, you just saw the back of it?
Just the back of it, yeah.
What kind of gait did it have going across that river?
Well, I know the water was about up to its knees. I know that for sure. Stood there and just watched it. Pretty didn't take it very long to get across either.
And
So
the
I probably
footprints that you said you saw three of them. Now, did this look like three different Bigfoot, or was this like the same one and you just saw three prints?
this is all the same one. Yeah. So they were just going right down to the water. Yeah. Into it. So
There wasn't anything about that that was frightening or scary to you. You just didn't know for sure what you were looking at.
just curious, seen it and just looked at it. Yeah.
Did you tell your parents or your brother?
No, I never said nothing to nobody about it. I just didn't say anything. I just kept it to myself.
How did you feel when you saw this In Search of and saw the Patterson Gimlin film and realized that that's what you'd seen?
I figured I was pretty interested in giving me an answer to what I saw. So yeah.
And did you tell anyone then that you saw one back then?
No, I never did. No.
What do
I'd
you think
say
stopped you from talking about it?
um figured people usually pick on you and ridicule you about stuff. So yeah, make fun of you, things like that.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people do ridicule whenever it's still they're still doing that somewhat, even though
Oh
it's a
yeah.
lot more known today.
Yeah. I get it these days too, because some people they know and they hear something about me and they'll start picking on me about it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever go back to that river and fish?
We never ever went back there again to that spot.
Do you know
We
why?
went to other places out there, but never did go back there.
Have you talked to your did you ever talk to your dad or your brother if they ever saw anything?
No, I never did. No, no. I know my dad was always curious about Bigfoot too, because anything Bigfoot show would come on or something, he would watch it too. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a popular way to find out about what Bigfoot is, I think, was seeing some of those shows that would actually, show some
Yeah.
the
Oh
footage
yeah.
of the Patterson Gimlin film. What do you think of the Patterson Gimlin film?
It's very good. The stride, the way it walked and stuff, and pretty well resembles the same thing that I saw the way it walked. He saw going across the water, until it got to the other side. Yeah.
What do you think they are?
Well, I think they're definitely some type of human is what they are. Pretty darn sure because I've seen numerous tracks I've come across here and there. So yeah.
Have you heard since that time anyone else seen anything in that neck of the woods?
That neck of the woods, I went out to Brady, which is up along the Platte, a little further west. I've been out there a few years back. Me and a friend went out there because there was a report out there about Bigfoot sighting and that. So we went out there and took a look around and stuff and drove and did some walking and that. Checked the area out. Yeah. I
Did
could see one being out there. Oh yeah.
is that the only one you've ever seen then?
Oh no. Not the only one I've seen.
Okay, well let's get into some of the other experiences you've had.
Okay. And my second encounter I ever had was in 1985. Me and my cousin were out coon hunting, and we're up on this creek. And I've hunted out there before with my dogs, with another guy I used to go out with. Used to hunt with him out there hunting coon too. I've trapped through that area before out that way. So yeah, and out at that place, my cousin he got these dogs, and I went over and I was looking at them. And I said, "Oh, they look like cartoon dog." This is I still got some scent in that, and we can train them. So we trained them, and we went out to this place. We've had dogs out a few times. They were doing pretty good. 3 coons in that. So we get out there right away. The dogs get a coon treat and take care of it, and we get moving on down this creek, and it's kind of like a big U bend in the creek, and we get over to where there's an old railroad bridge out there along this creek too, and there's an old abandoned place back up in there, and we had something bail out of a tree and didn't know what it was. And my cousin, he was back behind me, but I seen this like big dark shadow take off for a big splash in the water. And I figured it was a coon just jumped in the water. Because I went over looking in the water, see if it was looking for a coon. I didn't find any coon at all. So my cousin goes, "Oh," he goes, "I'll go back to the car and take the coon back there." And I told him, "You just come back across from where the car's parked." And I says, "There's another bend over there, and it's um, kind of a bluff too." So, and he went to the car, and I went walking along, kind of wondering where's the dogs at. And pretty soon I pick up some eye shine. I'm looking at, and I'm thinking it's a big coon. I see it a ways away. I get over there to it. I'm on one side of this creek, and this thing is probably where I was, probably, I don't know, 150 foot away on the other side. I just had this old flashlight square, took a big square battery kind of flashlight I had, and I shined it over there, and all I can see is I'm kind of making out like an old dead tree stump. I figured it was around 9 foot up, and so that's where the eyes were, and I'm kind of looking at it and trying to figure a way to get across. I could shoot another coon, so I figured, okay. And I hear my cousin, he's yelling for me, so I go walking from where I get up on this bluff. I walk up there, and he's coming across. And I tell him, "Hey, come over here and check out this big coon, this tree over here." And we get over there, and he takes one look at it, and he goes, "That ain't no coon." "What do you think it is?" "I don't know." And I stood there, and I go, "Well, its eyes are really big, and they are kind of far apart. You want to take a shot at it?" And he goes, "What am I do? Kill farmer's bull?" I said there, "Nah." We laughed about it. We stood there and looked at it for a little while, and we walked away back towards the car. And I turned around, I come back, took another look at it, trying to figure out what sure it is. And I turned around, and I took a good look at it, and I went back to the car. We get to the car, the dogs are underneath the car. We get them drug out from underneath the car, get them in the car, and we turn around. We go down the road to another place. We try to get the dogs out of the car. Dogs didn't want to get out of the car. So we figured, we'll just go back to town, go back to his place. The dogs knew they were home. We let them out. Usually they just run around, but no, they run back to the pen. They sat right in front of the gate wanting in. So we let them in. And I go back, walk all the way back out there a couple days later, which is probably a good 7 miles. So I walked all the way out there just to see what I saw out there, because I took some traps with me because I was going to trap the area too. I get there to that spot, and I'm looking. There ain't no big dead tree there at all. I go, okay. I just kind of left the area and went on my way after that, and that's the encounter we had.
So in that encounter, did you hear anything or smell anything, or was it just
No,
the shine?
it just had eye shine. It would blink its eyes, but yeah, I wasn't thinking nothing Bigfoot then. So yeah,
And it was just one of them,
yeah,
just one, and no smell or anything of
no
that
smell.
nature, nothing, just saw the eye shine, and the
Just
dogs behaved differently than
yeah,
they
the way it
normally
was
do.
looking, because I could make out you know, the tree but looking at it, I could see the lump on top of it, and I could see the eyes. I figured it was a big coon. Basically, is what I thought it was.
Yeah, it can get pretty dark out there, coon hunting, I understand.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of it in my younger days, and that. Until then, I've never been back coon hunting since then. So yeah.
Was it because of the eye shine or was it some other reason?
That's probably the last time I ever went out with dogs, but I did do trapping, like different places where I moved and that. I'd go out and set traps and that and trap and hunt until I got into regular job working all the time, then doing other things too, like playing pool and working on vehicles and doing some racing and well, mud drag racing and that. So yeah,
I see.
I've done over the
Um,
years. So,
mhm.
oh yeah.
So you what did you think when the dogs were under the vehicle and didn't want to get out again and all of this? I mean, what did you conclude that the reason was that they were behaving that way?
I I wasn't really too sure at all, but like over the years, I never said much about it. Me and my cousin never did, but he started remembering tonight because I've talked to him about it too. I told him what I thought it was after all these years of it, and we were was up there not too long ago, and I talked to him. We talked about that,
How far was
but
this from how far was this from your original sighting of the Bigfoot crossing the water?
mm, well, what was the difference between them?
Yeah, how far between those two locations?
Oh, location, dog. They're quite a ways apart. Let's see, that would be, mm, say, from Sutton to Gossamer. I don't know how many miles that would be. That's probably 150 miles.
So it's a long ways apart.
That
Did you
long ways
in
apart.
the second location where you were coon hunting, do you have you heard of anyone else that have seen any Bigfoot out in that area?
No, not then, but probably the last. Well, I kind of really got more really into it in like 2019 because back in back in 2008, me and my brother we bought a piece of property, and on this property we set up a mud drag racing track down there, and include trees and stuff out. This was like in 2010. It was like in September. I was down there, cut a tree up that was blocking a path so I could pile up junk. And I was looked at the tree and that how I was going to cut it up. Went back to the pickup. I dropped the end gate, had the chainsaw, put oil, gas in it, and I think I was messing around tightening up the chain on it. And I heard this whoop, and it was back behind me. There's a lot of brush, and I sat there and I thought, what is whoop? And no, I've seen finding Bigfoot and stuff like that, and some of the stuff. You kind of learn some things there about things that happen out there in the woods and that, what you hear and that. But hearing that noise, it kind of just stuck to me. But this piece of property we bought, um, I had weird stuff happening. I go down there one day and I find a tire and a rim laying right out into the path where I drive to go back to the junk pile, just laying there. And I picked it up and I put it on the pile. It was probably about, I don't know, about 10, 15 foot away. Put it back on there. And I had other odd things happening with a garage we built with some cedar trees up there. And I parked my car trailer. I had a whole two cars that day. I dumped one in the bottom. I had a van on. I got home. I parked it up there because I didn't have time to really unload it. I had to go home and check on my dad because I was living here in Campbell at my dad's place. I was taking care of him. And this is like in early 2015 on this. And I said, I'll go back next day. I'll go hook up to the trailer and I'll look over. I see this cedar tree branch limb just kind of busted off and just hanging there. I go, that wasn't that way the day that day I was there, day before. So I said, I looked at it and thought, huh, wonder what did that. No, I figured maybe somebody came down after I left, was screwing around and climbing a tree and broke it. But it's pretty good sized limb. It was probably good 3 inches in diameter, I would say. And no, I figured, well, after that happened, I said, got into March. It's 2015. We had a pretty good snowstorm. It was the later part of March, and I was down there on a Saturday, helping my nephew get some pipe for his demo car and that. So I did that, but I come back on a Tuesday because I had a guy that needed an alternator, and he had a van. I told him I got a van same year, sitting down there. I go down to get a alternator off from it. Well, I parked up top and I walked down in the bottom, and most of the snow is melted except for in the shade. There's some snow left. I seen these tracks when I was walking down there, and I seen them, and I go, huh, wonder who's been hunting down here. And I walked up to the track and I looked at these tracks in the snow, and I looked at them, and they were huge. And I looked at them and I go, it's probably like a 17-inch track, and it's probably a good 7 inches wide. And I looked down in the track, look at it, and I could see toes there. I seen how far they were apart. So I sat there and I figured, well, I'm gonna step this, see how far it is. So I almost end up doing the splits, but because I put my heel to heel is what I was trying to do for a step. And I stepped as far as I could, almost doing the splits, and I was probably there 12, 14 inches from the heel of that other step. And I looked at them and that, and I just went and got the alternator off and went back home. And a couple weeks later, I'm down there, and my brother's down there, and I was telling him about the tracks that I seen. He sat there, he goes, there ain't no such thing. And that, and I told him, I said, I know what I seen. I said, I've seen the tracks. I said, I know what they are. Because, and I told him it's Bigfoot, definitely. He told me I was full of it, and there ain't no such thing. So, yeah, I
So
got mad and I just left.
2015,
Yeah, it was
those tracks,
2015 March.
when you saw the tracks in the snow,
Yeah.
now where was that located?
Um, it's by a little town of Dewey, but we're a couple miles west there on a county line. And it's a small property. It's about 18 and a half acres.
Okay, but and this isn't the same land that you and your brother bought. Is it the same land?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Yep.
it was on that same location where
Yep.
you heard the whoop
Oh,
and
yeah.
tree, various other things that had happened there. So there's some evidence. Did you
Oh,
get
yeah.
any pictures? Did you happen to get any pictures of those footprints?
No, I did. Although I had a flip phone, but it had no camera on it.
Yeah.
The only thing I had. I didn't have no way to take pictures of it or anything. But I have gotten a picture of tracks, impressions. I've measured them. I've had a lot of weird stuff happen down there. I've heard yells down there back in 2017. I was down there December. It was the first Monday on a December because I had pool pool league I was going to, a farmer's pool league. And I was working on a car that day, and I parked up top. I'm sitting there up top, just relaxing, just listening to the birds and that. And there's a property off to the north and west of my place. And I'm hearing this dog. He's over in there and he's barking. And he's a good mile away from normally where he's at, but he's down in there barking something intensely. And this thing just starts yelling out of there. And I mean, it was freaking loud. I've heard mountain lion before. And yeah, this was no mountain lion. And I sat there and listened to it until it stopped. And then I left and went into pool league. But, and I think later that year, I think in April, 2018 in April, I was down there. I went to an auction, bought a load of junk, brought it back, parked it up by the garage. I got another cedar tree. Ended up same scenario, broken limb on it, a couple of them, and we had nothing that happened. And I've taken pictures of these things since then. So,
Uh,
but
yeah. Would you mind sending me some of those images and we can put them with
yeah,
your
I'll have to take a picture with my phone of the picture and send it to you.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'll
I've
add
got
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I got a actual good cell phone that I could do stuff with. Yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
do you ever just go out and do any boots on the ground, just actual research for these, or you're all
yeah.
these?
I'm doing boots on the ground now. Yeah, yeah.
So
Because
tell me about some of your research now.
okay, well, I've got my place and I got another place I've been going to. Uh, this other place I've gone to out there, I've got numerous pictures of tracks and that I've taken out there and stuff. I've I figured out there's like 5 different individuals out there at this place so far by the tracks and by the photograph I got too. Accidentally in 2002, I was out there with my cell phone. Well, my old one. I went fishing that morning. I decided to go check out a couple other areas. I decided I'd take some pictures of the river, picture upstream, downstream, and that. I go back to this one area, and there's a structure back in there. So I go over, I check the structure out. I want to check it, see if anything's been added to it or anything. But the thing I did find, I found a log that's leaning up into another tree. And the thing is about this log, the big end is up in this tree laying there. I think I've got pictures of that. There's other structures in there, but I went from there. I went back to this spot, check the river out. I took a picture going downstream. I turn around, I take a picture going across. When I took a picture going across, shortly after I took it, I heard this tree crack on the other side. That's there. There's hardly any wind. So when I got back home, I went and looked at the picture closer, and I could see a figure back beside this tree back in there. And there's actually a second one too. This friend Jason, I showed him the photograph of it because I blew it up. And he goes, another one right there. And I looked at it. I go, you're right. Because you can tell by the shadow that's coming off from him for the time of day when I took it. So I took it was like 4:26 in the afternoon. I think it was when I took it. And I looked, I've been out there a couple times to it. I took a pole that was 6 foot 8 inches, and I took it out there. I went exactly to where this tree was. I had to come in from the other side, and I put this pole against this tree, and I took it pole where that one was standing. I took the pole, I took it about 10 foot back, stood it up in the brush, and I took a picture of it. And when I got back home, I was doing a comparison, trying to figure out how big they were. And I got them pretty much lined up pretty good. I could tell where this brush ended back there, about 20 foot back. That's where this Bigfoot was probably standing. You can't see the legs of them because of the brush. The picture pixelates it out. And looking at it, and I go, oh, this one over here, he's got to be 7 foot range. And I'm looking at the other one, and I go, oh, I bet he's probably up in the 8 foot range, how tall he is. And I've been back out there what's this year? Yeah, this year. I brought a rangefinder and I went back out there to see how far they were away from where I took the picture. Well, I took a rangefinder across the river to a tree, and that was 111 yards. I went down to the embankment where I had a clean shot going across. Where that tree is, where they were standing back in there from, that was 91 yards. So, okay. Gonna walk back up to where I was, and I figured, well, they're probably around 140, 150 yards away from me. And the thing about that area there, I found a track in the sand. And this was, I think it was before that. Yeah, I think it was a year before that. I'll have to look at the date on it. But I found a track in the sand, and it measured like, oh, right around 18 inches or so. And you could tell the sand, the toes had drug out of the sand. I took my friend a day and a half later, Janice, I took her. We went out there. I want to show her this track that I found. And I did measurements. I took measurements, pictures of it, and that. And this, he walked from the wood line, from the bank and everything, where he come from. He stayed on all the vegetation until he got there, where he just took a pretty darn good sized step. I can't remember how far it was, but I did take measurements of it. And he stepped off the one step and off into the river, heading to the same area. The other thing about this area there, I was up at the museum in Hastings up there. I'd always go up there. I seen this kid come in. I knew him, who he was. And he was in there. His grandma took him up there because he wanted to see it, man. I got to talking to him. And he told me about their encounter they had out in that area. Because him and his buddies were camped out back in there. And he told me they were hearing this owl. And so they started hooting back to it, doing that. And they figured it out. That ain't no owl. So one of the guys sat there and he picked up a piece of log or wood or whatever because they had a campfire. And he goes over and he got a big old tree knock and it stops completely. They're out there and they're standing around the campfire and that. And pretty soon, can't remember how long it was. They said, I think it was a good half hour. This thing come up to the wood line and started breaking branches and stuff, and that just scared them. They were out there until that morning, and their parents came out and picked them up and that. Yeah, and that's how I got a story from that kid. But I've talked to his dad because his dad grew up in that area and stuff. And them guys were like river rats. They'd always go down to the river, take their bicycles and that, fish and everything else on that river. They said, he says, yeah. He says, I've come across tracks down there before on that river over there. And I've found tracks out there. I've had wood knocks out there. I had Kenny Collins. I was out there 5 days before that. This is after I've gotten the story. I finally got time. I went over there to check it out. And I was just on the ground doing some walking some area. I was over in this one area walking. And I was looking at, I think it was a branch that was broke over, and I was looking at it. And I heard something. I looked up. I seen something dark take off. I didn't get good eyes on it. It was a big old cottonwood blocked the view from where it was going. Huh. Stood there for a while, watched. I continued on, and I got down a ways. There's another spot I walked to where people pull into and stuff, and there's kind of an ATV trail. So I kind of walked on this trail, and I get down to about where this fallen tree is. I about to it, and all of a sudden I hear this wood knock off to my right, up off into the trees. I stop. I look that way. I'm not seeing anything. So I turn around and go around that and go a little ways away, and pretty soon I hear another wood knock, and it's to my left and down off in these other trees where it comes from. They're okay. So I turn around, I go down, I walk down on the river. I go back into these trees and that, and I walk around in there. I found some structures and that. And I took some pictures of them and that. And I left there. And on the way back, I found a set of tracks. I looked at them. They were in the mud. The stride was only 38 inches. But I took pictures, took measurements of them. And they were like 12 inches long. And they were like 5 inches wide behind where the toes were. They were sunk down by about good 5 inches into the mud. They had leaves in them. And I went back, got my van, stuff, went up to the museum. Kenny was up there, and they were doing Christmas thing. I talked to him, and I told him, want to go out this place? I showed him pictures of the tracks that we go out there on December 26th. Me, him, this gal Robin, we're out there walking. So I showed him them tracks that were in the mud, and we get over to this one spot. I told him there's structures back in the feet. We're standing up there, looking at the river. We're looking down. I'm looking down at the sandbar. I go, hey, that looks like a track down there. So me and him go down kind of a trail, but it's kind of filled in with brush. If you're out water, moved it out of the way. We get down there, and I'm standing there getting ready to take a picture, and Kenny's behind me. He goes, there's a track right here. And I turn around, we take a look at it. I mean, it's a fresh track. And I'm looking at it. We took pictures, did measurements of it. We never did cast it. We should have cast it that one. And looking at this, it's really, really good track. And he found it. And we looked at it some more because it was like in line with the other one. And this thing definitely went across the river and onto the other sandbar because there was tracks on the other sandbar going off into the woods back up in there, which I call no man's land because there's really no way to really get onto that side unless you want to walk in a couple miles, get into that part of the woods because you can't get across. Another way where you can drive in is a creek. Is kind of hard to get across. unless you want to wade across it, or when the river's really down low. When they're doing irrigation, you can cross the river pretty easy. I've searched that area quite a bit out there. I've searched it there. I've searched it about a mile downstream. I found tracks 3 times there. First time I found a heel print. I found it's a heel. I measured it. It's like 5 inches across. And I kind of looked down this trail and I go, it's kind of like the path of less resistance. And I'm looking down this trail and I can see branches broke off fresh and it's white. And I'm looking at it. So I go down this trail trying to find more tracks. I see some brush and there's a log laying in there and it's probably about 6 inches round. And this must have stepped on it because it just mashed it. It was really rotten. And we got nothing that's going to really mash a log like that. And I go over to where this branch that was broke off. I look at it. It's above my head. And the branch that broke off is laying straight down from me. I look up at it. And, well, I got a tape measure. So I measured it. And it was like 77 inches above my head. Is how far that break was. Then I was out there another time during the winter. Me and Robin went out to see. He walked one area. I'd bushwhack across a bunch of area, deer trails and that. And I'm way back in there, same area. And I come across a set of tracks going down a deer trail. And I looked at them. And the tracks were probably about 10, 11 inches long. The snow is melting pretty fast. I stepped as far as I could, but it was probably about another 3, 4 more inches to get to the heel of it. You could almost match it doing that, but not quite. And I did a video on that, and I took pictures of them. But by the time she gets over there, they're almost melted away. So you can just barely see where they went. And I followed them probably for a couple 100 feet down the trail just to see. They kept the same stride the whole way going down this deer trail. And we're okay. That's pretty good. Going back over to the other spot, the mile upstream, I was over there. Oh, let's see, when was that? I think it was in 2022. Yeah, it was in 2022. I was over there. The river's down low. I went over there. I wanted to walk the river real low. I'm out there walking the sand and that, just looking around. Took pictures of fish that were out there. Flatheads, they were in like holes along the banks and stuff. Yeah, just checking it out. I walked all the way upstream, probably a good mile. And I'd walk, well, yeah, it had to be a good mile walked up because almost up to the one area where the car bodies are. I could see them. I turned around and I came back. It's getting pretty hot. And I'm on the way back. And I noticed set of these little tracks, probably about, well, they're probably 5, 6 inches long, the most, right around that size. And I looked at them. I seen them earlier going along. They were along the water's, this little water's edge because the stream was probably running I don't know, maybe 3 foot across the most. Stuff along the banks and stuff. And I seen the tracks earlier. walking around, figured out somebody had their kid down there or something. So I got to looking at these tracks a lot better. When I came back down, I found them again. I took a picture of the one track. It was really good. But the tracks, I were maybe a foot and a half apart, and they were all in line. And I followed them, and they were real light on top of the sand, except for where the sand rolled over, the sand was soft. It was hard packed sand. And I followed them. It went into the water, and it went right up this embankment that was probably, I don't know, 6, 7 foot up. Just you tell something, just climbed just straight up. This is going off into no man's land. Okay. And I come back down and I notice the other tracks going across. They're in line, and they're probably, I don't know, 5, 6 days old. They stepped on a part of a four-wheeler track, and these are pretty good impressions because they're with a four-wheeler. Somebody had a pickup four-wheel drive down there too because it's like tracks. But looking at these tracks, I walked next to these tracks, and I sit there in the stride. I never did measure them, but I did put my wallet down next to the tracks and one of those footprints, and the sand is degrading enough you can't really see the toes, but you can kind of make them out somewhat. But they were in line. Put my wallet next to it. I haven't done the size comparison to figure out how big they actually are, but they go across to an area where people usually pull up to and stuff. And I seen where the guy who was on the four wheeler, he must have been handfished because I seen his tracks when I was coming up where he got out and walked off into the water. His tracks were smaller than that. So I figured them tracks are probably around, I'll say around 12 inches long. But that guy's tracks, nah, his were only about 10 inches long. And you could see the instep on them. And them tracks there, they were flat footed. I could tell that just by looking at them, how they were. But I've seen enough of them out in this area. And they just went downstream and that. When I left there, it was probably darn near almost 100 degrees. I did a video. I talked about what I found when I was out there walking down this, when I walked up and walked down and stuff. Because I could tell tracks just looking at them. I could tell basically how old they are, if they're a fresh track, old track. Because when I did hunting and trapping all the time, I was always looking at tracks. So I got a pretty good idea about how old they are and that, looking at stuff like that. And I was over into another area, another mile back, or on some old railroad tracks and that. And I walked back in there along this creek. It's spring fed. I seen where it was spring fed at. I walked back in there a ways. I had this feeling I was being watched after I got back in there a ways. And I took a kind of a shortcut and I kind of cut along the edge of a swampy ground. There's cattails and that. It was frozen. I come back. I got to where the old railroad tracks are. And at this one spot, I'm standing up high and I'm looking down. There's an old grist mill down there. And I'm standing up there. And I get this wood knock and it comes from down by where this grist mill is, down in there, loud. And I stood there and I looked around and down there and I couldn't see nothing. I just kind of noted and I just left from there. I've been back out there and walked out a few other times. Found a pretty odd, and real, like a structure. And it's like a tree. It's been bent over got another tree that was busted off, and this is laying on the end of it, back in there. That was pretty interesting. Now, I'm going back to the Dewey's area over there. Since I found tracks on my place in that, um, this is back in 2019. This is like in April. I think it was like the 18th or 19th. We had a lot of rain. The creek had been out of the embankment, so you got a lot of silt, mud. I go back into this other property where I heard these yells come from. I go back in there. I'm walking around back in there. I'm not finding much. Check out an old farm place back there. And I'm kind of walking along the cedars, and I figured, oh, I'm going to cut back and head back. I'm walking over to the deer were running, and I kind of tripped over something. I said, I kind of looked down at it. It was kind of like in the fraction. So about stumbled, and I looked at it, went back and took another look at it. I said, that's a freaking track. And it's like a month old. It's been rained on. The deer stepped in it where the big toe was. Definitely stepped on that part of it. And I stepped on where the heel was and kind of knocked the dirt into it. I took pictures of it. I put my foot next to it. I took a picture of it. I measured my shoe. My shoe is 12 inches long and 5 inches wide. And next to this thing is like 17 inches long. It's like 7 inches wide. The heel is definitely over 4, I think, if I remember right. And the thing about it is where it stepped, there was a limb about that big around. The mud had silted over it. Well, it stepped on this limb, and this limb had raised from the pressure being stepped on, raised the mud up. And when it hardened, when it dried, it was stair pushed up like that. That told me that was something big up there. The only thing I could figure, they took that one step in the mud there and stepped up, jumped, either took a jump up to get onto the other embankment because it was like not very far from it, probably about 5 foot away or so. And if I was standing in the bottom of that creek there, that embankment was probably about where my eyes are. And I'm like 5'10" or so, right around there. I've shrunk down some. And at another area south of my place, I had permission to walk the place. And I went back over to this other area, talked to a guy over there. Had some people camped out over there. They told me about a yell they heard. This is like early in the morning. And I talked to them, and they said they were from like South Dakota up there, and they said they've heard mountain lions. They said that was no mountain lion. It was okay. I go back. I've walked the north side of this creek. I've walked a lot of it, and I go back into this other area, and I get back there walking around. There's old railroad tracks used to go through there. I'm back in there walking because I got permission to be on this land, so I'm back in there walking along. We get to a nice open spot, and I'm kind of looking across. It's all like blue stem grass and prairie, and I'm looking. I can tell where the deer walked out and stuff. I walk across it, get over there, kind of looking for a way to get down the bottom. I kind of look off to my right, and I see this tree branch that's broke, and it's an oak. It's probably about this big around, and it's above my head, right about. Walk where I look at it. It's yellow in color, and the branch is laying straight down. Huh. And I kind of look, and I can kind of tell I can go down. It's kind of steep, and I get halfway down it, and I'm looking, and I'm noticing these impressions in the mud, just going up this hill, and I'm going down it, and I got to looking at it really close, and I said, "This is bipedal that came up this, and it's too steep for cattle because cattle ain't gonna go up this because if cattle were going up this, they'd have had a path going up it. But there ain't been cattle in there well over a year, and I come back that Sunday, brought tape measure, brought my camera, had my phone. I started using my camera. My batteries just went dead all of a sudden in it. So, okay. So I used my cell phone that I had. I took pictures of the track and was impression down to the bottom right before this log. And I measured it. It's like 17 inches long, it's around 7 inches wide, like five on the heel, I think it was. And I'm looking at it. It's pressed in. It's probably pressed in probably about that much into the ground. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, when's the last time it rained here? I said it rained here about a month ago. And we had a 3-inch rain. I said, okay. This makes sense. This is when this thing made the tracks going up this. And I go to the next set of tracks and I do a measurement from heel to maybe where the heel of this other track was on its step going up. And it was like 57, 59 inches. And I look at the next track and it's like over here. And it looked like the foot slid because they're just like just a pile of mud sticking up probably about this far along the side when it slid its foot. I said, okay. And you can tell where it took the other leg and put the other leg down at the next because it's caught itself going up this. And it just did track. There's like 10 tracks going up this thing up to the top. And I took pictures of it, but to really see how the tracks were, I had a notepad with me. So I took notepads, I put them in the tracks. So you could tell exactly where it stepped. I put this in the middle of where it stepped. And this is bipedal going up there. And I couldn't match the stride this thing had going up this. I've got pictures of it. I've taken of it. I got measurements of the track that I took and stuff. I took Kenny Collins out there and we poured like a cast of where it slid. But this, you ain't seen no toe impression or nothing because it's been rained on a couple times. We've had like half inch of rain, maybe an inch in between a few times. So and it had leaves and that in it because it's getting to be fall. So that was like in October. It was 2019. It was in October, 18th or 19th, or I think 18th. I think it was. I got it wrote down, but that's just south of my place, about a quarter mile. So
Sounds like you've had just a lot of evidence that you've run across and been able to for years in your life. Now, have all of these happenings been in Nebraska?
yeah, this is all in Nebraska. Yeah,
All in Nebraska. Wow.
yeah.
I've interviewed several other people from Nebraska that apparently there's quite a bit of activity up there.
Yeah, I think like a lot of activity. When somebody has a sighting and stuff, it doesn't get reported. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people don't and sometimes it's just locals that might hear a word or two about it. Absolutely. Well, Arthur, I'm going to go ahead and end our interview today. I really appreciate your sharing all of these
Okay.
vast number of experiences that you've had and all the evidence that you found. And
Uh-huh.
I look forward to you sending me some images so we can attach those to
Okay.
this video.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Also
much.
got another project I'm working on too. I had Alan McGargle from Colorado.
Mhm.
We did a investigation down there on my property. We did a night one down there. We had a wood knock that night too. But we did another one here a couple of years ago down there. And he suggested me doing a gifting down there. It's been real interesting with the gifting thing. I've had rocks taken. Had one. I've had 3 rocks that disappeared completely. They brought one of them back and replaced it by this small tree on the other side of the gifting tree. And I've gifted grapes, apples. The one time when I was checking on the grapes, I seen a single grape laying on the ground, and I looked straight down, and I find a track. It's like 14 and a half to maybe 14 and a half to 15 inches. It was like 7 inches wide, and where it stepped. And I did measurements and stuff on that. Let's see what else. I've had smells and stuff. I know this year I had a rock that gifted. It took me 3. I had to go back look at 3 different pictures of the rocks to figure out when the rock was placed there. So yeah,